morning. Today among our midst we have Mr. Pradeep Kothe, Senior Manager, Talent Acquisition, Wiley-mthree. He has close to 20 years of experience in talent acquisition across executive research firms. Welcome to ABBS HR Connect.
Thank you.
This is a web series which is going to podcast on what are the skills required for the freshers to get employed in your industry. So this is my first question. What are the various skills it requires for the students to get employed in your industry?
Okay, thanks for that question, Professor. So let me break that into 2 or 3 different types. I do not want to put across 1 or 2 skills. Since we are here in the management school, we have multiple streams.
Yes.
So it may not be right for me to address one particular stream. The way I look at it, there are 3 different types of skills, which will have finer aspects of each of those. One is the domain-specific skills. Now, what I have seen in the last 8 to 10 years of my core recruitment experience is that students come with specializations, be it finance, marketing, HR, or operations. What we see is they have the subject knowledge which is a lot more theoretical in nature, purely based on the curriculum that is being put across through institutes, which has a particular body that is actually doing the necessary research and thinking that this is the right way to go about it. What I would rather suggest or recommend going forward with the new age social learning that is picking up, because you are learning from every possible avenue today. So let the practical learning get a lot more intense in each of those domains, be it finance. Now finance, people think I know balance sheet, I know how to look at profit and loss statement, I know how to do a company review. You look at internships today, it is about doing a company review. And the review is purely about look at balance sheet, work out ratios. That's not enough, because that can be done on an Excel sheet just like that. So what we need from students is to go a little more in depth on what goes on at a strategic level in each of those organizations. If it is finance, look at some of the banking and financial services organizations, investment banks, do a lot more of homework on what actually would be required for you to be part of that organization. That's one. The second is on the attitude skills. When I say attitude, a part of which is already mentioned earlier now, that detailed homework of the type of organization that I am targeting for. Since you mentioned about employment, I would want to stick to that. Self-employment is separate.
Correct.
But if you are looking at being employed at some other corporate, students should start doing that homework about that particular corporate a lot more in advance. Understand what is the specialization, what exactly that organization is into. Understand them a lot more, because it's more like a marriage. Unless you know the other side of it very well, you are just there for a transaction of an interview, and that's not going to help you in the long run. So these are 2 things that I would suggest students start looking at as part of their preparation process.
Okay, in your experience, do you think this really the students have this, or there is a big gap in the system?
Yes, there is a gap. Let me be very honest about it, and I think it is a harsh reality for any faculty to face, because you wouldn't like to say there is a gap. But the reality today is that there is a gap, and that is the reason why you have multiple organizations out there, maybe on the soft skill training, domain specific training, that are in existence today. You can call them as finishing schools, but then they are in existence purely because of the gap that is existing here. One way this gap can be bridged is involve the industry a lot more. Yes, involve the industry a lot more during your interactions, during those 2 years of the curriculum. Maybe if you can give a window of opportunity for the industry student connect, along with keeping the faculty away from that. Bring only the industry specialists or be it finance, HR, whichever it is, because I normally have observed that HRs are part of most of the conclaves that I have visited so far. That may not be enough, because HRs will only be able to give you a very high level information. But if you need finance, if you need marketing, you need digital marketing to be more specific, bring those people. You can take help of those HRs to identify the right ones, but I think that's going to be more constructive for the students.
That's a good idea. That's what we also proposed actually today. That's good. And the last question I can pose to you is, now you said there is a gap is there, and the skills required also you told clearly. How to develop, also you told basically the finishing schools are developing it, but still how much gap is in India, and what certain things you want to say to the freshers now? Okay, do this now to get to the future. So future is going to be slightly different, I think so. Today's skill is not going to be tomorrow. I want you to say something about futuristic skills which can be useful for our students to prepare for that in the future.
Absolutely. So two things I had already mentioned earlier, Professor. One is on the domain-specific skills. The second is on the attitude. When I say attitude, their ability to go in depth and relearn or learn a lot of new things. For a futuristic, technology has become part of anything that you talk about today. Now the ability of student to appreciate the involvement of technology in every space. From HR is supposed to be human resource, which is not supposed to have as much of technology in it, but today even HR has got so much of technology into it that you just cannot keep technology away from any aspect. What I would strongly recommend students to do is appreciate the involvement of technology and put enough effort to understand what are the changes that are taking place in the last maybe 3 quarters, 4 quarters prior to the today. And once you arrive at that, you will probably understand there are a few startups who are already working on what could be there in the next 2 or 3 years, because these changes don't happen en masse. They will never take place. These changes will take place in a small capsule, and then they will blow up into large scale. Similarly, like how you have the smartphones today, they have developed into a large scale thing. Even a laborer today has a smartphone. So this is exactly how the new age technology is going to invade into every aspect of your management. So as early as the student understands it and embraces this, I think that is going to be the key. You don't need to rely on the finishing schools anymore after that.
Thank you, Mr. Pradeep, for your time. I hope the students would have enjoyed this moment, understanding what they have to develop themselves. I hope the comments given by our guest today has enlightened that students should get ready with the technological aspects for the future learning. Thank you, Pradeep.
Thank you for having me here.